What's going on? YouTube, listen up. Young Elder Gang. This is Dr. Charles P. Winston. At you with another banger. Please make sure you like, subscribe and share this video, fam. I hope this video get at least 100,000 likes in this video. You will find history definitions, scripture, information, and, best of all, what we Americans have been deprived of from the beginning. The truth, keep in mind, this content used in this video is intended for entertainment, educational and informational purposes only. We will give you the total truth as we best understand it. Today, be sure to hit that like button, Young Elder Gang, hit that subscribe button. If you're new to the channel, hit that bell, and don't forget to check back with us every day for new content. In the heart of West Africa, a new kind of leader has emerged. Ibrahim Traoré, the interim leader of Burkina Faso. Young, bold, and in a red beret, Traoré has become a symbol of revolution for many Africans. Since taking power in 2022, he's divided opinion, seen as a threat by some, a hero by others. His rise is part of a larger movement, a demand for sovereignty and dignity across Africa. He calls for a revolution not just in politics, but in the minds of his people. Traoré urges his people to believe in their own power and reclaim their destiny. This is the story of a struggle for true independence and the dawn of a new era for Africa. Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso's military leader and currently the world's youngest head of state, is seen as shaking the world, primarily due to his potent anti-Western, pan-Africanist rhetoric and a series of actions that directly challenge long-standing Western influence in West Africa. Traoré has become a powerful symbol of resistance against perceived Western imperialism and neo-colonialism, particularly from France, the former colonial power. His government expelled French troops and diplomats, ended military agreements, and has moved to diversify Burkina Faso's international partnerships. Traoré's speeches often resonate widely with African youth and the diaspora, who are disillusioned with post-independence leaders and feel that Africa's wealth has been continually exploited. His call for African nations to unite, achieve self-reliance, and stop behaving like puppets has positioned him as the modern-day heir to the revolutionary leader Thomas Sankara. Ibrahim Traoré was born in Kera, Bondoukoui, Mohun Province on 14th of March 1988. After receiving his primary education in Bondoukoui, he attended a high school in Bobo-Dioulasso, the second largest city in Burkina Faso, where he was known as being quiet and very talented. From 2006, he studied geology at the University of Ouagadougou. He was part of the Association of Muslim Students and the Marxist National Association of Students of Burkina Faso, ANEB. In the latter, he rose to delegate and became known for defending his classmates in disputes. He graduated from the university with honours. Traoré joined the army of Burkina Faso in 2009 and graduated from the Georges Namoano Military Academy. He was sent to Morocco for anti-aircraft training before being transferred to an infantry unit in Kaya, a town in northern Burkina Faso. Promoted to lieutenant in 2014, Traoré joined MINUSMA, a United Nations peacekeeping force involved in the Mali War. In 2018, he was cited as one of the MINUSMA soldiers who showed courage during major rebel attacks in the Tombouctou region. He subsequently returned to Burkina Faso, where he assisted in operations against the escalating jihadist insurgency. Traoré fought at Djibo in the Otapouanou offensive of 2019 and several other counter-insurgency operations in the country's north. He was promoted to captain in 2020. Traoré later said that he became disillusioned with his country's leadership around this time, as he saw the widespread lack of equipment of Burkinabé soldiers while politicians were handing out suitcases of money for bribery. He gradually became the spokesman for soldiers stationed in the north who were frustrated with their government. In early 2022, Burkina Faso's government fell to a military coup, justified by the failure to stop relentless terrorist attacks. The public, desperate for security, initially supported the new military rulers, but violence only escalated. Frustration grew within the army, especially among frontline soldiers like Captain Ibrahim Traoré. Traoré saw firsthand the disconnect between commanders in the capital and the realities on the ground. In September 2022, just 8 months after the first coup, Traoré led a second one, ousting the previous junta. At 34, he became the world's youngest head of state. In his first address, Traoré insisted he acted out of necessity, not ambition. He criticized reliance on French military support, arguing that Burkinabé soldiers must lead their own fight. Traoré promised a new approach: sovereignty, self-reliance, and a break from failed strategies. He presented himself as a reluctant leader, answering a call of duty rather than seeking power. Unlike previous coup leaders, he vowed to oversee a transition back to civilian rule once security was restored. His message of national pride and frustration with foreign interference resonated deeply. Traoré's coup was more than a power grab. It was a declaration of a new direction for Burkina Faso. He tapped into a deep well of anger at the post-colonial order. The country and the world braced for what would come next. Once in power, Traoré moved quickly to reclaim Burkina Faso's sovereignty. His first major act, ordering all French troops to leave the country, ending a decade-long military presence. The French flag was lowered and the last soldiers departed, a powerful symbol across West Africa. Traoré's government began reviewing mining contracts, demanding a fairer share of the nation's gold wealth. He suspended French state-funded media, accusing them of spreading misinformation and undermining national unity. These moves were about more than policy. They were about breaking free from neo-colonial control. Supporters saw Traoré as finishing the revolution Thomas Sankara began. Critics in the West called his actions reckless and isolating. Traoré's boldness sent shockwaves through the international community. He was determined to put Burkinabé interests first, no matter the cost. The stage was set for confrontation between a small, defiant nation and powerful global interests. Traoré's message was clear. Burkina Faso would chart its own course. The world took notice. Facing pressure from the West and regional bodies, Traoré knew Burkina Faso couldn't stand alone. He turned to neighbours Mali and Niger, countries facing similar struggles and also led by military governments. Together they formed the Alliance of Sahel States, AES, in September 2023, a mutual defence pact and political statement. The AES declared that an attack on one would be an attack on all, directly challenging threats from ECOWAS and Western powers. Unlike previous alliances dependent on foreign support, the AES is built on sovereignty and self-determination. The bloc seeks new partners, like Russia and Turkey, on its own terms, aiming for military and economic independence. Plans for a confederation and a single currency signal a break from the French-backed CFA franc. The AES is about more than security. It's about building a new model for African integration. By rejecting old colonial structures, these nations are forging a path based on shared interests and mutual respect. The alliance is a bold experiment in regional unity. It's a direct challenge to the old order and a test of whether African nations can truly stand on their own. The world is watching this new bloc with both hope and apprehension. Traoré's rise and the formation of the AES have alarmed Western powers. Officially, the West cites concerns about democracy and stability, but deeper fears are at play. For centuries, Africa's resources have fueled the global economy, with the West benefiting from favourable contracts and compliant leaders. Traoré's review of mining deals threatens this system, potentially disrupting global supply chains. The Sahel is also strategically vital, a bridge between North and Sub-Saharan Africa, long dominated by French and US military interests. Traoré's expulsion of Western forces and embrace of new partners like Russia and China is seen as a direct challenge to global dominance. The West frames this as a new Cold War, but for many Africans it's about choosing themselves. The real threat Traoré poses is the power of his example. If his revolution succeeds, it could inspire others to demand sovereignty and control over their resources. He is a symbol of a world the West can no longer easily control. Traoré's defiance is shaking the foundations of the old order. Whether he's seen as a dictator or a liberator, his impact is undeniable. The stakes are global. Ibrahim Traoré's administration has implemented policies to reclaim control over the nation's natural resources, including nationalising some foreign-owned gold mines and building a domestic gold refinery to ensure more wealth stays within the country. Despite concerns over authoritarian tactics and a worsening security situation, Traoré maintains significant popular support domestically and across the continent due to his humble public persona, focus on self-sufficiency and direct engagement with citizens in local languages. He often appears in simple military fatigues, further cultivating his image as a man of the people. Traoré, alongside the military leaders of Mali and Niger, formed the Alliance of Sahel States and collectively withdrew from the regional bloc ECOWAS, creating a new, powerful anti-imperialist alliance that fundamentally alters regional dynamics. Traoré's actions and rhetoric are seen as a direct challenge to the established global order and a potential catalyst for a broader shift in African politics towards greater sovereignty and self-determination. In today's world, battles are fought with words as much as weapons. Two competing narratives about Traoré dominate the media. Western outlets paint him as a dangerous junta leader, focusing on his youth, alliances with Russia, and suppression of French media. This narrative justifies sanctions and intervention, ignoring the failures of past Western policies. Meanwhile, African social media and alternative news celebrate Traoré as a Pan-African hero, sharing his speeches and red beret image as symbols of resistance. For many, he's not a threat to democracy, but a champion of liberation. Traoré's government actively shapes this counter-narrative, using national media and social platforms to promote pride and self-reliance. By shutting down French outlets, they aim to break the West's monopoly on the story. The information war is crucial. Whoever controls the narrative shapes the future. Traoré's image is now a rallying point for a new generation. The fight for perception is as fierce as any on the battlefield. The outcome will influence not just Burkina Faso, but the entire continent. Traoré deliberately channels the legacy of Thomas Sankara, Burkina Faso's martyred revolutionary. The red beret is more than a symbol. It's a statement of intent to revive Sankara's ideals of self-sufficiency and Pan-African solidarity. Traoré's policies echo Sankara's community mobilization, anti-corruption, and a call for Africans to control their own destiny. His fiery speeches, especially on international stages, challenge Africa's continued poverty despite its wealth. By invoking Sankara, Traoré taps into a deep well of national pride and unfinished dreams. He's restored Sankara's place in public life, inspiring trust and a sense of historical purpose. This revival extends beyond Burkina Faso, resonating with Africans across the continent. The Alliance of Sahel States is a modern application of Sankara's Pan-African vision. Traoré's leadership shows that Sankara's ideas are alive, inspiring a new generation to fight for true independence. He's not just a military leader, he's part of a long struggle for Africa's soul. The Pan-African dream is being revived, one bold step at a time. The world is witnessing a new chapter in an old fight. World elite bankers want Ibrahim Traoré gone because his policies challenge the traditional Western-dominated financial systems and threaten the continued extraction of resources that benefit foreign interests. His approach is perceived by some as a direct threat to the established global economic order. Ibrahim Traoré rejection of Western financial institutions. Traoré has publicly criticized and reportedly rejected loans and financial assistance from the International Monetary Fund, IMF, and the World Bank, framing them as tools of economic dependence and financial slavery. This stance undermines the influence and business model of these institutions, and by extension, the elite bankers associated with them. Ibrahim Traoré is for nationalism over foreign interests. He has pursued policies to take greater state control of Burkina Faso's natural resources, particularly gold mines. This includes increasing the state's equity stake in mining projects from 10% to 15%, requiring domestic processing of gold and nationalizing some foreign-owned mines. These actions directly impact the profits and control of Western mining corporations and investors. Traoré advocates for national development through internal resource mobilization and citizen action, rather than relying on foreign aid or investment. This model of self-reliance, if successful and emulated by other nations, could diminish the economic leverage and market opportunities for international businesses and financial institutions in Africa. Ibrahim Traoré's government has severed military and diplomatic ties with former colonial power France and pivoted toward new partnerships with nations like Russia and the BRICS group. This shift challenges the geopolitical and economic dominance of Western powers in the region, which concern elite bankers with investments tied to the traditional order. Traoré's anti-imperialist, pan-African rhetoric and actions have resonated with many across the continent, creating a cult of support and inspiring other African nations to demand greater autonomy. The potential for this sentiment to spread could threaten the global financial system's ability to operate in the traditional manner across the continent. Traoré's independent and assertive approach makes him less predictable and potentially harder to control or influence through conventional diplomatic or financial pressures. From the perspective of entities that rely on stability and adherence to established rules, this unpredictability could be seen as a risk. In summary, desire to remove Traoré stems from the perceived threat his policies pose to the profitability, influence and long-standing operational framework of elite international financial and corporate entities. They want Ibrahim Traoré gone due to the shift in Burkina Faso's foreign policy away from the US and toward other international partners such as Russia. The military takeover that brought him to power ended the country's brief period as a democracy and a potential US security partner. His leadership represents a challenge to US influence and regional stability, as perceived by the CIA. Traoré's government has pursued policies that reduce US influence, such as potentially aligning with Russia. This could be seen as a direct challenge to US interests in the Sahel region. Alignment with adversaries. A hypothetical shift in alliances, such as moving closer to Russia, could be a major driver for CIA interest in removing a leader. The military takeover that brought Traoré to power ended Burkina Faso's brief tenure as a democracy and a regional security partner for the US. The ongoing wave of military coups in the Sahel could be seen as a source of regional instability, and the CIA might hypothetically view Traoré as an obstacle to restoring a more stable, democratic-leaning order that would be more favourable to US interests. Traoré's shift away from former colonial power France and the West towards closer ties with Russia, including the presence of the Wagner Group, Africa Corps, could exacerbate geopolitical competition and create a coup belt of Sahel states, potentially drawing in rival global powers. The formation of the AES with Mali and Niger and the subsequent withdrawal from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, threaten regional unity and could lead to increased tension and isolation within West Africa. Traoré's bold and sometimes impulsive actions, such as expelling foreign military forces and ambassadors, could lead to diplomatic fallout, sanctions and economic instability, if not managed with long-term foresight. Despite promises to improve security, the jihadist insurgency in Burkina Faso has reportedly grown more deadly and widespread under his rule, with militant groups controlling large portions of the country. This could result in spillover effects, destabilizing neighboring countries. The military and state-backed civilian militias, VDP, have been accused of serious human rights abuses and massacres against civilians, which can fuel a cycle of violence and drive recruitment for jihadist groups. Actions such as dissolving the Independent National Electoral Commission, restricting free speech and media, and consolidating power through force rather than democratic processes suggest a move toward authoritarian rule. This could lead to internal unrest, civil conflict, and a worsening humanitarian crisis. Why does Traoré matter so much? Because he challenges a global order built on centuries of exploitation. His actions, ending foreign military presence, reviewing resource contracts, forming new alliances, are a direct rejection of neo-colonialism. Traoré's revolution is a test case. Can African nations chart their own course, or will the old system crush them? If he and his allies succeed, it could spark a wave of movements for sovereignty across Africa and the global south. If they fail, it will reinforce the power of the status quo. This story is about more than Burkina Faso. It's about the right of all peoples to self-determination. The changes in the Sahel reflect a global system in crisis, with old empires weakening and new powers rising. Traoré's defiance is a sign of the times. Whether seen as a hero or a villain, he is shaking the world. The future of Africa, and perhaps the world, hangs in the balance. The struggle for justice, dignity, and independence continues. Traoré's story is far from over. The world will never be the same again.